Good morning. Greetings from a very dark and dreary Hartington, where it's trying to snow. So there's a couple of different parking options in the village. Once you got parked up, make your way to the public toilets and take the path alongside. Just follow the path alongside the toilets and out the back. It's pretty obvious which way to go. So I've not walked along here for a few years, and this is new. So it looks like they've changed the gates. We're just going to go straight over. Yeah, so just go straight over, follow the sign to Beresford Dale, and the path indeed is very clearly marked. So this is my first walk in 3 weeks, my first proper walk in 3 weeks. Been sick. I did attempt to go for a walk a couple of weeks ago, but that's the day I got sick and I abandoned the walk and came back. And I'm still not right. So this is a classic walk, something not too difficult and fairly short, and not that far for me to travel to get here, just because I'm not quite feeling right. I'm still coughing, and obviously the weather's not ideal for when you're under the weather, when you're not feeling well either. It's a bit cold and a bit wet. But this is an area I've walked a few times before, and it is beautiful. And there's really not many people around at all. The roads were very quiet this morning. And when I left home, it was trying to rain. As I drove up into the Peak District, it changed to snow. So obviously we're in the White Peak here, which is limestone based. So when it is wet, you do need to take care because it can be quite slippery. So walkers are encouraged to stick to the footpaths. So the footpaths are actually very clearly marked. And you really shouldn't have any problems at all following the trail. So in the mist and the murk, you may just be able to make out a building right there, and that is quite a historically interesting and significant building. That is Charles Cotton's fishing house. The fishing house is just about there. Almost impossible to see it, but it's just there. And we're going to go into the woods just for a little, very small section. There's a deer right next to that tree. So we're at the bottom of Beresford Dale now, and it's magical. This is of course the River Dove. Deer still there. This dale is very small and becomes Wolfscote Dale. Deer doesn't seem too bothered at all by me. There's been a few occasions over the years when pretty much this time of year and when it's trying to snow and there's just no one around and it's quite murky. I've had a few pretty amazing encounters with deer and foxes and other wildlife. A few interesting rock overhangs over there. Possible caves, but I think they're more just oh no, there's definitely a couple of small caves, look. But that's private land, and there's buildings on top. It looks like there's a network of caves potentially underneath that bit of rock where those buildings are. Well, it's coming up for 9 o'clock now on a Saturday morning, and this is the River Dove, although not the most popular part of the River Dove. Still, it's the River Dove, and it's still quite a popular area, and I've not seen anybody since I left Hartington. I think the weather is probably the biggest reason for that. So along this stretch in particular, the course of the river was altered with these weirs and these pools, and it was altered in order to try and make ideal fishing conditions. I still can't believe I've not seen anybody. Oh, I'm not sure what's happened here. It has been a few years since I was here. So this is the very final section of Beresford Dale, and then it becomes Wolfscote Dale just over there. And the logical, obvious thing to do is to go this way, but that's not what we're going to do today. We're going to do something slightly different. Okay, well, just come to this road here, and then we'll go up for a short distance. And it does look like we've got a bit of flooding. We've got water going across the road here. Okay, so just walk along that little lane for a very short distance until you get to this. Which is opposite the gate to Beresford House. And we're going to turn off and come up this way. I don't know how clear it is, but the views are pretty spectacular. Over there is Wolfscote Hill. You can't really see the top. The top is covered in fog and cloud, and also snow, so it just kind of becomes an opaque blur, and you can't really distinguish where the sky is and where the hill stops. And then over here you've got some pretty impressive rock outcrops. Wolfscote Hill is very significant. There is a trig point up there, I'm pretty sure, but more significant than that, there is there's quite a few old ancient burial mounds up there, and there used to be a concessionary path that you could take to go up Wolfscote Hill. And I did that 2 or 3 times, and it was always really impressive up there. But unfortunately, they've removed that concessionary right, and now it's all blocked off. You can't go up there without trespassing. But it is an area of real significance, and we should have the right to go up there. I mean, it's just a hill. There's just a few sheep on there. That's it. Why can't we go up there? Well, I've still not seen anybody. And now that I've left the main trail and I'm taking this far less walked route, it's pretty unlikely that I'll see anyone for a while now, I expect, apart from maybe the odd farmer. But I'm not complaining. Look at this, incredible. When you get to this gate here, you're going to be heading straight on. It's very strange weather and light. It's very eerie. There's no other word for it. Very still, very quiet, eerie. Just no sign of anyone else. You'll eventually get to this gate here, where you then have a few options. So Narrowdale runs parallel to Wolfscote Dale, but as you can see, very few people come this way. The most interesting thing about it, I think, is all the hillsides around here were ancient burial sites, or are ancient burial sites. You know, I mentioned Wolfscote Hill. which was a particularly important and significant burial site. But all of the hills around here have burial chambers, Neolithic and Bronze Age burial chambers. Every single one of them was considered to be a sacred place. So this is Narrowdale. Over that side we've got Grattan Hill, which has some burial chambers on top. Over this side we have Narrowdale Hill, which also has burial chambers on top. I think what I'm going to do is just go this way initially. I've not been up on top of Narrowdale Hill before, so I'm going to see whether you can actually get on top, because the path doesn't directly go up to the top on the map. But obviously that doesn't mean anything, so we'll just have a wander up and see. Pretty impressive in the low cloud. Okay, so follow that small trail and you will get to this point here. There are a couple of paths you can take, but the most significant thing for us is that sign there saying access land, which means that we don't have to stick to any trail. We can walk where we like, and we can go directly up to the top. I'm not sure if my lungs are up for going up to the top today. But I'll maybe give it a go. You can see where people have just gone directly up. I'm going to follow this in the hope that it will get me to the top less directly and less steeply. So the summit of the hill is still some distance off over in that direction. Grattan Hill over there. I'm just following this trail in the hope that it will eventually wind its way up to the top, or close to the top. So I'm going to follow that interesting looking earthwork. It's not marked on the map. And see if I can get my way up to the top without it being too strenuous. In between filming, I am coughing quite strongly, so coughing quite hard. So my lungs clearly aren't right at the moment. So I don't want to overdo it, and it is incredibly cold in the cloud, and it's trying to snow, but I'm intrigued by this mound. It circles all the way around. We know that these hills are ancient, and we know that people buried their dead on these hills thousands of years ago. But is this evidence of something else? Some ancient earthwork maybe, or maybe a more recent boundary, maybe the sites of a dry stone wall in the past or something, I don't know, but something old was here. So this is it. This is the summit of Narrowdale Hill, and just here, according to the map, is where the tumulus was, the ancient burial site. There's just a few mounds to see now. You can't tell exactly what was what. I'm gonna have a little look around. Not entirely sure what that is. It looks like an old feed sack, maybe, for livestock. There's another one. Looks like it's made of cardboard. So I quite enjoyed that, and in different weather you'd probably get some pretty incredible views. Not much today in terms of views, but I'm coming off because the wind's picking up and it is cold. Seen some people finally. Didn't expect to see anyone here. The weather has taken a turn for the worst. It's definitely snowing now. The visibility's got even worse than it was before. Okay, so I've made a slight change to the plan. I was going to go down into Narrowdale and then take the path, possibly go up Grattan Hill and come back down again, possibly not, but to take the path along. But all paths converge anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go this way where those people came from. As mentioned, you can follow the lower path through Narrowdale itself, or you can come up and take this track until you get to this point here. A little bit of fumbling around with the fences and the gates, but eventually all the paths converge anyway. Over in the other direction, the other side of Narrowdale, is Grattan Hill, which also has ancient burial grounds on top, so you can also go and have a look up there. I was going to go and wander up there, but it'd just be a climb up and then a climb back down again, and I'm not feeling that brilliant, and the weather isn't that great. And whilst it would be worth doing that on a clear day, because you'd have views down into Wolfscote Dale, which is just the other side of the hill, today you're not going to see a thing. Unnecessarily tight and narrow. Pretty impressive view back up Narrowdale Hill. At this point, a whole bunch of different paths are going to start converging together, and we're going to have a whole load of different options as to exactly which route we take. So there are lots of different options here, and it doesn't really matter too much which way you go. I'm not sure which is the best way to go, but I think what I'm going to do is keep going straight for now. So at this point, I'm just going to go straight on. This is the way we've just come. We've got a road ahead of us. We're heading towards the road, but we're not going to reach the road. We're going to take a side path just before we get there, but for now we're heading towards the road. So literally just before you get to the road, turn this way. You got this slightly weird structure here. Not entirely sure what this is supposed to be. And then we're going this way. Just over there is Wolfscote Field. We all come very close to Wolfscote Field, but without actually going into it. Right here we've got a couple of more options. We could go straight on at this point, or we could head up that way. Again, it doesn't really matter which way. It all joins up eventually. Thinking about going that way, but there's no clearly defined trail. So instead I think I'll just head straight on. Doesn't really make much difference. So yeah, I've just come straight over. So very, very close to Wolfscote Field, but just outside, just in the fields. Keep on going straight. Okay, at this point here, we are going to go straight over, but only for a very short distance. That's where we've just come through. We've got this farm track here. We're just going to follow it, but only up to that point there. At this point we're going to turn off and then go through that gate over there. I mean, it is a ridiculous number of small footpaths, very close together, all pretty much joining up together. So we've just come from there to here and now over here. So this bit isn't particularly well signposted, but basically you're just coming across until you get to this bit here. Once you get to this bit, it's nice and clear again where the path is. So it's a little bit of a test of your navigational skills. There are so many little tiny paths that you just follow for a short distance, and then you got options. But basically there's nothing that goes directly where you want to go. So you're walking along the path for a short distance, getting to another path, getting to a turning, having a choice. And it really doesn't matter which route you take, as long as you end up at this point. We've just come through there, straight ahead. As you get to this point, there is a nice sign that indicates the direction which we need to take. But you may start to recognize in the distance some of the features. But we're headed that way, where that cow is. Okay, so we've just come across the field, gone through that gate there, and then come across this part of the field where we get this quite spectacular view. Okay, so we are back at Wolfscote Dale. In a minute or so, we're actually going to join up with the route that I took on my previous classic Peak District walk video from not that long ago. although there's going to be just the tiniest bits of overlap. That was the Dale walk. So I came out of Dale into Wolfscote Dale and then walked down a section. At this point we're going to come down Gypsy Bank just below where Dale joins Wolfscote Dale. It's worth it for the view, isn't it? Look at it. The weather's not particularly brilliant, but the views are brilliant, so I think I will stop here for lunch. Look at it. Got this very steep climb down now into Wolfscote Dale and then across the bridge. So quite steep, and you do need to take care because especially when wet, a little bit slippery. But we're pretty much down at the bottom at Gypsy Bank Bridge. Just there is the old pump for pumping water up to the farm. Just one final little bit to go, so I'm going to stop recording whilst I concentrate on not falling over. Right, so we've just come down that quite steep path, crossed over the bridge, and now we're walking along the River Dove again. Pretty much immediately in front of me is the bottom of Dale. Here we are at the bottom of Dale. There's quite a few people around. So this is where this video joins up with my previous Classic Peak District walk video, where I walked down Dale to this point. But we're just going to pass Dale and we're going to continue following Wolfscote Dale. So you can see it's very different from how it was this morning. A lot more people around now. So here we are, pretty much at the top of Wolfscote Dale. These are the rock outcrops that we could see earlier from when we were headed towards Narrowdale. There's a number of caves in these limestone outcrops. There's a couple of people sat in the entrance of one over there. I have explored these. The caves don't really go very far, they're very small caves. But what I have done is I have walked along the very top all the way along where I've just walked, basically all the way to Dale. So at this point where you come out of the top of Wolfscote Dale into the very bottom of Beresford Dale, you can cross this bridge and follow this path along, and it will take you back to the path we took this morning. Alternatively, just keep following Beresford Dale along until you get to the other crossing. So there is Narrowdale Hill, which I climbed this morning. Looks like all the snow has melted from the top, and although it's still quite misty on top, it's not as cloudy as it was earlier. Now I'm back where the bridge is. So this is the closing of the loop on today's walk. I am going to be retracing my steps from this point on, but you don't have to. You can climb up and go that way back to Hartington. Okay, so the loop is now complete. Look at how clear that water is. The loop is now complete. I'm just following Beresford Dale back. So retracing my steps from this morning. You don't have to do this. You can climb up the other side, and there's various routes that you can take to get back to Hartington. But I don't think that they're that interesting, and now that you can't get up Wolfscote Dale, now you can't get up Wolfscote Hill, there's really not much point going that way. The only real benefit is just avoiding having to retrace your steps, but it's so much prettier coming this way. Now there's a lot more people now than there were this morning. I didn't see anyone at all this morning, and I doubt if we'll get to see a deer again today, but you never know. I'm not sure if it is pronounced Beresford or Beresford, but seeing as it's right next to Wolfscote Dale, I like to call it Beresford. We got the bears, we got the wolves. So this was the area where I saw the deer this morning. And here we are back at Hartington. So I hope you enjoyed that walk. It's a bit of a twist, a bit of a variation of a classic Peak District walk. I enjoyed it. It was just what I needed. Following this bout of flu, which I'm still recovering from, or COVID, or whatever it is. Yeah, I did struggle a little bit climbing the hill. But no, it's been an enjoyable walk. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.